goals should prepare a child for further education, employment, and independent living. And that includes their speech goals. Welcome to the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Witcher, and if you've been around for any amount of time, you know that I'm always talking about how to do IEP resets and start to think about IEPs differently and how to really upgrade IEP goals to include the long-term thought process of further education, employment, and independent living. Now we have to apply that strategy and find the tools and find the resources that can help us make sure that we are truly helping a child now and in the future. So as I'm looking for some of the best tools, I came across Sago Mini, which it's a whole thing. I'm going to put all the links in here. Okay. But today I'm going to mention to you this resource that I found called First Words. And First Words is an app, and it reminded me of why we need to focus more on our real world application when it comes to the area of communication and speech. So just to give you a little insight here, I watched my brother struggle with communication and speech throughout his school years. It was a big deal. I can remember going to speech therapy with my brother. You know, we'd sit and we'd watch through that one-way mirror, and I'd watch my brother practice his words. You know, being a special education teacher years ago, I had many different therapists, including speech therapists, coming in and out of the classroom and working on different activities and different things. And here's something that I have seen, not just in the past as a sibling, not just as a teacher, which was many years ago, but even right now, I'm seeing a lot of struggle in our therapies that are being done in the school of having tools that are appropriate for now and for the future. Meaning there's a lot of out-of-date things that are being used, and they could be easily swapped out, but we need to work together to make that happen. So let me give you an example. I have seen, and this is recently, I have seen prompts, meaning like cards that, you know, we're using like flashcards to help students. I've seen different kind of apps and just different computer programs and things that use visuals to help prompt using words and understanding communication. And I wrote them down to make sure that I mentioned all three of them. Ready? I've seen cassette players, as in this is how we listen to music. I have seen phones that no longer exist. Like you can't buy them anywhere. Okay. Kind of phones, like home phones. I get that some of us still have home phones. I don't know if you have a home phone, but you know, home phones, but these are the kind of phones that they do not exist. You're not buying them anywhere. Okay. And I've seen taxi, which I get even with taxi. Yes, there's still taxis around, but what do we see more of? What do we see more of? Come on, you know, Ubers and Lyfts, right? Like we need to expand outside of just a taxi of like, how do you get a ride to the airport? And we need to expand our language on that. So I'm seeing some outdated things that are being used. And so as I'm exploring some new resources and I'm figuring out what's out there, this First Words app is something that I think you should know about. And let me tell you that I'm just going to share with you some of the features of it. And I want you to think about how can you take this concept of leveling up and bringing communication into the now and into the future inside of your child or your students' IEPs. So here's the first thing is I love real world examples, right? Do you love real world examples, right? Like you're just like, okay, just show me how it needs to get done. Just show me. Like, don't tell me like in the pictures. Oh, you know, like when you get that instruction manual and it doesn't really look like the thing that's in front of you, like something from IKEA, and you're like, oh, like this is hard. Like, why can't you just show me the real thing? Or you could watch a video and it would, you know, be much easier, right? Than following something that looks out of date or it's hard to connect with. So this app, First Words, has real video of kids who are working on their words, right? So they're saying things like their color words or their animals or different foods, and it's an actual child who is saying the words. And when you're interacting with this app, you can speak back to the app, right? And if you say the word correctly and even close to correctly, because I played around with it a little bit here, so I made sure that I said things not perfectly, I get some confetti and I get some stars and I get to move on to the next word. here's what else is interesting. When I was using this app, because I'm like, there's going to be some students that they're not going to get their confetti and stars for saying the words just right? So, but there's like an errorless learning opportunity in there, which means that if you're trying, it takes longer to get to the next word, but you can still move on to the next thing. So the frustration level can be a little bit lower. So I love that. So let's make sure that instead of using things like old-fashioned flashcards that have like cassette players and phones that don't even exist right now, right? Let's make sure that we're using things that are real, that our students, that our children can connect with, real life examples. And here's the other thing. I want to make sure that we bring some fun into it too. I don't know why we have just kind of stuck in special education to this concept of like, we have to work on the hardest things all the time. And, we get to this frustration level and it's like, how hard can you keep going, working towards these goals? Let's add some fun into it. So when I was using this app and I was looking at the real videos and I'm, playing around with it and I'm saying my color words and I'm doing that. And I got to a certain part and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what is that? And there was a filter on my face, like the camera turned on and there was this filter, kind of like a Snapchat filter. And it totally surprised me. And I was like, this is so cute. I love this. Okay. So interaction and making sure that we have games, that is part of now and that is part of the future. Can we just agree that putting in gamification, that's what, the fancy word for it, right? Gamification into our lessons or into, especially when it comes to communication and reaching our goals when it comes to the area of speech and the IEPs, putting this into the concept of a game is really important. I still play games with my peers. We still have the opportunity to go. I love to play pool. When I'm with my brother, I play Uno with him. There's a bingo. Right? Like there are different games. So putting in gamification and making something real as we're trying to reach goals, especially when it comes to communication, so we can build even more of a connection, which makes us want to communicate more typically, right? That we're like, okay, like this is fun. Let's keep going. So I want to make sure that as we look at building IEPs for the real world, and we look at, what should we be doing for math and what should we be doing for reading, that we're not leaving out this concept of speech and finding resources like First Words, they're going to help connect. There's one more thing that I just have to give a shout out for First Words. So I went down that whole like research path, right? Where I'm like, okay, what else do they have? I'm going to share another resource on another podcast that they have, but I want you to go check out Sago Mini. Just go to their website and look at all the cool things or go to their Instagram. They actually have a show now that is streaming on Apple Plus. And I was like, wait a minute. So the show coordinates with the app. So then the child is working on, their speech production and working on their pronunciation, and they're playing games, and the Snapchat filter actually matched. I'm calling it a Snapchat filter. That's just me, but it's, this filter, right? And it matches the TV show. I'm like, this is all a bunch of layers that I know is going to add another layer of fun and connection for so many students. But we have to get creative and look for this. You have to be that teacher or that parent that's just, just saying, I'm not going to get stuck anymore. I'm not going to get stuck in just using what I have. I'm going to make sure that I'm moving forward and I'm saying, what is possible? What is possible for us to look at? How are we going to apply this long-term? What's going to make this stick? And that's making sure that we have some preferred activities, that we're integrating fun, that we have this gamification, and that it's real. That it's real application, that we're letting go of the old school materials that just don't make sense anymore. And let's make sure that we're moving forward. I'll put the links to everything here. And remember, if you got any ideas from this and you're like, yes, we need to address this in my child or my students, speech section of their IEP, and I need to move forward and I need to find some of these resources, could you please go ahead and just leave a 5-star review, leave a comment. Every time you leave a review or a comment on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, on Facebook, it helps more parents and teachers find the resources that they need so they can help build better IEPs that work in the real world. All right, everyone, I'll talk to you next time.